What up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Funboxing with Will. I am your host, Will, with H2O Co. Film and Photo, and today we're going to be doing an overall look at the Shark Lock by Andrew Demko. If you're unfamiliar with the Shark Lock, it is a locking mechanism, a finger-safe locking mechanism that they've recently introduced, or Andrew Demko has recently introduced to his line of the AD 20.5, and it's also recently come out also for Flytainium in the Arcade, which I just did a review for in my last video. So I'll go ahead and leave a link for that video in the description if you want to check out the review for the Arcade. I'll also go ahead and leave a link for the Andrew Demko 20.5 in the description if you want to check out that knife. But today we're just going to be talking about the locking mechanism that these two knives share in common and why I think that it's one of the best and strongest locking mechanisms to ever be made for any folding knife. So let's get into that overview, guys. Alrighty guys, well, before we get into the overview of the Shark Lock, as always, I just wanted to say thank you for anybody who's come in to check out this video or any of my other videos, or if you've subscribed to this channel, I really appreciate you. And if you haven't and you like EDC content or tech review content, please go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Turn on those bell notifications to get notified when I put out new content. And other than that, we're going to get over to the top-down setup so we can check out this Shark Lock in a closer view. So let's go check out that lock, guys. Alrighty, everybody. Well, now that we're over here at the top-down setup, we can take a closer look at one of my all-time favorite locking mechanisms, the Shark Lock by Andrew Demko. For those of you that don't know about the Shark Lock, or if you've never handled a Shark Lock, it is basically a improvement on the traditional back locking knife that you see in a lot of the older style knives, especially those made by buck knives. So for those of you who don't know, this right here is a back locking knife. Now, I want to say it was roughly 20 years ago. I could be wrong, give or take some time periods, but this knife has been around forever. It became very popular in the 1960s with the introduction of the Buck 110 folding hunter. It became the very first widely available backlock folding knife, and for over 60 years now, this knife has been regarded as one of the most durable and strongest locking mechanisms on the planet for any folding knife anywhere ever. And then about 20 years ago, I want to say, Andrew Demko entered the scene, and he kind of made some big improvements upon it with a triad lock is what they call it. Now, I have a triad lock over here. Let me grab one real quick. My apologies. I should have had this out already to go, but here it is. So this is a back lock right here, and then this is a triad lock right here. And we'll get into some of the differences between the two here in a second. But Andrew Demko kind of took what he saw with the back lock, and he made some improvements upon it, making the triad lock. And then years later, he made even further improvements on the triad lock, and he put together the Shark Lock, which he is kind of known for making different kinds of locking mechanisms. If you look at the AD-15, there's something called a scorpion lock on that, which is another unique locking mechanism that he put together that is substantially strong. And there are just a few things about the scorpion lock that, in my book, put the Shark Lock a couple steps above it. But so if you notice here, I have quite a few of these Shark Locks. As far as I'm aware, they're only currently available in 3 models of knife. They're available in the AD-20, the custom AD-20, the AD-20.5, which are what these 4 knives here are, and then it's also been recently made available from a company named Flytainium, who partnered with him and licensed his lock to make their very first folding knife, the Arcade, which is the knife that I just recently did a review on. So if you want to go ahead and check out that full review, I'll put the link to that video in the description here or in the comments, and you can go ahead and check out the full review on this Arcade knife. I also have some full reviews on the Demko 20.5 knives just by themselves, if that's what you're looking for. So I had mentioned in my last video that recently I had been watching another one of my favorite YouTubers' videos, a guy named Metal Complex. And if you're here watching this video, I'm pretty sure you know who Metal Complex is. And this entire time that I've thought about the Shark Lock, or I've known about its existence, I've had this idea in my head about what it feels like. And I'd never been able to articulate that quite the way that I really wanted to articulate it until yesterday when I watched his review of the Arcade. And he had mentioned that it is so intuitive and it feels so natural in the hand that it's almost as if it belongs next to the stick and the rock. And when he said that, it was like, that's what I've been trying to say this whole time. It was like he pulled the words out of my brain when I couldn't think of them myself. And it's very true. The lock is so easy to use. It's a finger-safe lock. And it's so intuitive that it feels like you should naturally just have one of these locks in your hand. And it also feels like, why aren't all folding knives made with this lock? It's so perfect, it's so strong, it's such a simple idea that it just makes sense. So it's just a very natural feeling lock. Not only that, but like I mentioned, it is a finger safe lock, because when you're operating it, to operate this locking mechanism, this tab on the back, the shark fin as they call it, just gets pulled straight down, and then the blade is free floating. So it's very much a finger safe lock. It's very fidget friendly, and it's a very quick deployment and quick to put away. So for those of you who are no nonsense types of people, and when you carry a knife you want to get it out, get the job you need done with it, and then put it back in your pocket, I feel like this is one of the perfect knives for that kind of a situation, or that kind of a thought process, basically. You know, and so overall, I just think it's a great knife. So we're going to go ahead real quick, and I apologize about how crude. I used to be better at drawing, but I haven't done it in about 10 to 15 years, so I apologize about how crude these drawings are. But we're going to go ahead and get into the evolution of the backlock, basically. So in the beginning, in 1964, when Buck came out with the Ranger 110 folding knife, it operates off of a backlock system. Basically, you've got a spring right here in the back of the blade, and then there is a back spacer bar that has tension put on it constantly. And when you push that down, it lifts this part of it up, which locks into a little tiny groove in the back of the blade, and that allows the blade to lock into place, and it is a very, very strong and durable lock. And it's been regarded one of the best locks for a very, very long time now at this point. Well, when Andrew Demko came along, he decided that even though it was a very strong lock, he thought he could improve upon it by adding a stop pin basically right here, and then cutting out more of the steel on the tang of the blade and creating a little hook at the tip of the back spacer bar on the back lock, essentially. Other than that, the design is pretty much identical. And so that just gives it this extra pin that it wedges the steel between, and you can even see it here on this knife. If you look, you can see that little hook right there, and it goes in between that pin and the tang of the blade, locking it in. And this right here is a durable lock. You're not going to break this lock. I'm betting money that the actual plastic FRN handle scales and the screw would snap before the locking mechanism did itself. And I think these have actually been tested to over 800 pounds of force before they break. So up until this point, the Triad lock had been, you know, regarded, again, it took the place of the back lock as the strongest locking mechanism for any folding knife. Well, recently, I want to say 2 years ago now, Andrew Demko invented the Shark lock, which is, I want to say it's the strongest locking mechanism out there available now. I don't know because I haven't seen any tests, and I'd be quite interested to see an actual weight test on this. I've yet to see one done to actually find out what exactly this could take as far as weight before the failure happens on this. But so essentially how this design is different was they got rid of the back spring here altogether and basically the back spacer spring bar. And what they did was they took this piece of metal and they hollowed it out. They kept the stop pin in there, and then they put these other two pins right here and right here. So this piece right here is hollow on the inside, and it kind of wraps itself around these two pins right here, as you see in this drawing. And then there's a spring in between there. And so this stop pin here is also making a point of contact with the tang of the blade. And then if you want to look, there is quite a bit of flat right here. So all of this flat surface right here is what's going to come in contact with the under part of this fin right here. And to me, that looks like 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch of steel that is getting put underneath that locking mechanism right there. And also, as these wear, the metal wears down, he has designed it to where it'll actually push itself, seat itself further in place, actually making this lock stronger the more you use it. So in essence, for this lock to break under just weight, you would have to break the pivot, the steel stop pin, and then both steel back spacers for this mechanism to fail. And in my opinion, it's just a very smart way to do it. And I think it is one of, like I said, I would bet money that this is stronger than the Triad lock. And again, this is just my opinion, so don't quote me on that. But altogether, all around, I found it to be one of the best locking mechanisms out there. And it's really a shame, like I said earlier, that they don't have it open sourced so that anybody can use it. I hope one day, I mean, I know one day it'll happen because patents only last so long, but it would have been amazing to see Andrew Demko say, you know what, whoever wants to use my locking mechanism, go right ahead. I think it would be good for the community because, you know, it's such an intuitive and great locking mechanism. All of the locking mechanisms that I've seen that he's produced for the Shark Lock ride-on bearings, and that's about it for the review for the locking mechanism. I just wanted to go ahead and get into it a little bit more. I hadn't seen any videos specifically on the mechanism itself. I'd only seen videos been released about his knives, and just going into the mechanism itself, kind of trying to explain to people why I believe it's such a good lock and why it's such a strong lock. It's one thing to tell somebody, oh, this is the strongest lock ever, and then it's another to show them what it is and why your opinion has been formed the way it is. So that was basically all I wanted to do with this video, was just to show some people how it works, how it functions, and give them an idea of why I think personally it's one of the strongest locks out there. Everybody's opinion's different. Take it for what it is. Leave it if you don't agree, that's fine. Go ahead and comment in the comments about what you think about this lock. I'd be interested to find out. And other than that, we're going to get back over to the desktop setup so we can finish up this video today, guys. Thanks for coming over and checking out the Shark Lock by Andrew Demko today. Alrighty, everybody. Well, that's it for today's overview of the Shark Lock. Like I said earlier, if you like EDC content or tech reviews, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button and turn on those bell notifications to get notified when I put out new content. Other than that today, guys, that's it for today's overview. Until next time, stay safe, stay sharp, and stay creative, my friends. We need more of that in this world, especially nowadays. Have a great night.